We welcome everyone who is in the room and also is joining us over Zoom. My name is Michael Brenner. I'm the director of the Center for Israel Studies, and it is my pleasure to welcome everyone and a special welcome to my colleague, Professor Lauren Strauss, and her class on modern Jewish literature. And also, as always, thanks to our managing director, Laura Cutler, for making this event possible and helping to organize many things besides the coffee and the cookies. This is a very difficult day for Israel, as many of you know. Today, two little children and their mother and an 83-year-old man were brought back. Their bodies were brought back in coffins after having been in Gaza for 500 days, and it is a day of mourning, as so many other days. As we know, it will take a long time until we actually realize the tragic consequences of this war, and that, of course, I mean, this war which started on October 7th, 2023, with the terror attack by Hamas. We're still dealing with a situation where millions of people, Jews and Palestinians, are in a situation, in a state of trauma, and it will take a lot of time to overcome this. So we ask ourselves, how can life go on? How can art and the arts go on? What is theater like in a state like this? And we're very honored and grateful to have Professor Roy Horovitz with us and come back to American University, where he taught for a semester not long ago. Professor Horovitz is an acclaimed Israeli actor, director, translator, dramaturg, and scholar. He serves as the chair of the Drama and Theater program at Bar-Ilan University, where he teaches and where he was recently awarded Excellent Teacher of the Year. His book, World of Innocence, The Dramatic Afterlife of the Bible in Yaakov Shabtai's plays, was published in 2021 and gained rave reviews. I read some of them. Congratulations, and won the prestigious Scientific Excellence Award in Israel. Besides his academic role, which also includes his time as visiting professor at the University of Texas in Austin, Professor Horovitz has performed many roles for various theaters in both Hebrew and English, and represented Israel in many prestigious festivals around the globe, including the Edinburgh Festival. He has been awarded Best Actor at the International Haifa Festival, and he also won Best Director Award for directing Pollard's Trial at the Kamari Theater in Tel Aviv. He featured in the film in film roles as well, including The Body with Antonio Banderas. Horovitz directed many critically acclaimed productions and was the artistic director of the Municipal Theater in Kiryat Shmone and dramaturg of the Beersheba Theater. So we're all looking forward to his lecture on Israeli theater in times of crisis, and please join me in welcoming Professor Horovitz. Have your own coffee.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I froze a bit on my way here, but now I'm fine. And actually, it feels like a homecoming, being here again at American University. Well, as you know, the state of Israel is a lot of things, but also a theatrical empire. We take pride in the fact that we have the highest rate of theater goers in the world per capita. When I taught here my course about Israeli theater, I used to tell my students that, with all due respect to your Broadway in New York or the West End in London, what keeps the industry going in these places are not the local people, or not mainly the local people, not the Americans and the British, but mainly the tourists. Whereas in Israel, these are the Israelis who are in love with theater and flock the venues. And in Tel Aviv alone, for example, we have every evening some 50 different shows performing most of the time to full houses. Israelis are in love with theater for various reasons that we won't get into today. We are a very interesting case study, I think also in the sense that we, to the best of my knowledge, we are the only country in the world that its national theater, for example, was established some 31 years prior to the actual state. The National Theater of Israel, Habima, was founded in Moscow in 1917, and the State of Israel came to life, as you all know, only in 1948. We are the only country in the world that its national theater is not based at the capital city, not in Jerusalem. We are in Tel Aviv. When the founders of Habima came to Israel and wanted to build a theater in Jerusalem, they were told enough is enough. Jerusalem is not yet ready for theater. Go to this secular, young, immoral city of Tel Aviv and do your thing there. And you know the famous Jewish prayer, Leshana Haba B'Yerushalayim U'Bnuya. We are still waiting. Maybe next year in Jerusalem, the National Theater will be there. So I think we are a very interesting case study. But today, as Professor Brenner said, I would like to focus on the role that art in general and theater in particular play in times of war and crisis. Although I must say that coming from Israel, I can't recall any other times in Israel. It seems that we are living, an ongoing crisis from, an everlasting war. Only in recent years we had not just COVID like everybody, but after it followed 5 elections and a terrible massacre and a legal coup and now the war. So we are actually going from one crisis to another. And I'd like to shed some light about the way art and especially theater artists function in such a reality and how they express or deal with the horrible reality that surrounds us. As you said at the beginning, these are really challenging times for Israel as we navigate through the uncertainty of a very long and harrowing war. It's easy to feel like the sheer concept of normal is slipping away, if it ever truly existed. But we struggle. And theater for us was, from its very modest beginnings, a prime location to explore our identity, as Hebrew-speaking Jewish Israelis coming from over 100 countries, speaking some 70 languages, coming from various, very different traditions and cultures. Wearing different hats, as you mentioned, I would try to juggle, and we only have 1 hour. I'll try to do the best, and I brought with me some clips of current Israeli productions, which are now being performed in Israel, and some selected scenes, which I'd like to read to you, and I'll try and let the text speak for themselves, do most of the work. Already in the first image that I chose, for my presentation, you can see the big venue of the Jerusalem Theater, the Municipal Theater of Jerusalem. This is the big stage there. A couple of days after October 7th, when the place turned into some kind of a storage. The people brought supplies there for the displaced people of Kiryat Shmona, of Sderot, of both the north and the south of Israel. Many people were displaced, were refugees in their own country, and the theater functioned as some kind of a storage from their diapers and food and etc. Were sent. So this is, I think, it's a very powerful image of theater at times of war. I wanted to start with this one. October 7th, as you all know, was the most deadly attack on Jews ever since the Holocaust, and it changed the world. It reshaped Israel for sure, and it also challenged, I think, artistic expression. But let's begin, with a bit of theory. Oh, here it is. I wanted to start by quoting this book first. This book, From Art to Politics, was published in 1995, and the author, Murray Edelman, argues there that art has a crucial part in translating the news into a set of narratives and images which are created from the defining events within the society, and at the same time explain them. Art has this double role of, first of all, drawing an inspiration from the actual event, but on the other hand, not just being inspired by them, by actually not just reflecting reality, but also shaping it in a way. Theater, the younger son of any given culture, which always appears after we have literature and we have music and paintings, etc., has always found these defining events, conflicts, and extreme situations very alluring. Yet it is also not as fast as other media to process and to react to changing realities. It is much easier to write a poem or to paint something than to produce a play, which calls for a much complicated logistics and operation. Theater is also, by definition, a communal event where you are never alone and share the same space and time with others. The discussion about the role of an artist during wars or crisis is very old and very deeply rooted in philosophical discourse from the very beginning. In Israel, for example, we keep coming back to this famous quote by the late great Hebrew poet Leah Goldberg, which once stated that the poet, and you can change poet into an artist, into a theater artist, whatever, the poet is the person who in days of war is not allowed and must not forget the real values of life. The poet is not only permitted to write love poems in days of war, but he must do so. Because even in days of war, the value of love is greater than the value of murder. Not only it is the poet's right to read his poem to nature, to the blooming trees, to the children who know how to laugh, but it is his duty, the duty to remind a human being that he is still a human being, and that at any time and at any hour, the moment to become a human being again is not missed yet. In recent months, many people came back to this quote where Goldberg speaks here in favor of what others might see as some kind of an escapism, not addressing directly any political event or wars or other tragedies within the framework of a fictional artistic piece of work. In that sense, by the way, she echoes, she's not alone, she echoes, for example, I was reminded of the famous saying by Stendhal, who once said that injecting politics into a piece of art is just as the same as shooting during a live concert. That was the analogy he made. Others, though, might differ. Bertolt Brecht, for example, claimed that artists who keep writing their love poems at times of war and pretend that business as usual are simply war criminals in the eyes of Bertolt Brecht. He once asked, in the dark times, will there also be singing? And he immediately answered, yes, there will be singing about the dark times. Yeah, so he was of the school that insisted that artists have this obligation to reflect what's going on, not to ignore it, and not to stay only in the personal, in praising nature and love poems. So we see that different artists have different views. Some will shoot a gun during a concert, where others will decide not to do it at any cost. Coming to 7th of October, which is our main topic, as I said before, it changed the whole picture. It was an enormous trigger and challenge to everybody, and made us reconsider who we really are in Israel as individuals, as citizens, and as a people. Even now, more than 500 days after the terrible massacre and kidnapping of the hostages and the beginning of the war, the questions still remain. Are we winning? Are we losing? What the hell is going on? Have we simply lost our mind? October 7th was very unique in that sense that a civil trauma and a military trauma united, I think, that day together in a very new way. War actually was not confined anymore to distant battlefields. The borders have been breached. The war was moved into our homes. And it's really a world where it feels impossible to live when from every direction, south, north, east, west, there is someone plotting your death. You know the famous saying that when the cannons roar, the muses are silent. I think that day our muses not only kept silent, but they were actually in total shock. I think they went into a coma, especially the muses of theater, despite the fact that theater is maybe the most suitable medium to actually describe temporariness, to build a memorial monument to those who have gone, and to try and bring the physical and psychological there and then to the here and now. The first artistic creations were made by graphic designers, graffiti artists, and bloggers. They were the first one to react, some of them just a couple of hours after the nightmare. For example, they were the first ones to come up with a bank of images, which soon became very viral. You remember the 40 babies which were beheaded that day? They came with this logo of Hamas's ISIS. It was just on October 7th. It was already on the social media. Just a few examples. These were the first artistic, in a way, reactions in Israel. This is, for example, our Prime Minister, 7th of October, which can also be read in Hebrew as Sof, the end, the end of Israel, the end of his political career, somebody would have guessed. So they put this on top of his head. Some more examples. This postcard made by an artist from, I think she was from Kibbutz Re'im, one of the kibbutzim in the south, which were dreadfully attacked. And what she did here is she wrote on a small piece of paper WhatsApp messages that the members of the kibbutz exchanged that terrible morning. And she tried to put everything, the whole WhatsApp group, on one small postcard. Terrible messages here from the first hours. Next were all kinds of street performances. Some of them also started, originally were done in Israel, but immediately were adapted abroad as well. This is from the Parliament Square in London. You see, October 22nd, just 2 weeks after what had happened. You remember the empty strollers, you say? How do you say? Strollers. The empty strollers of the kidnapped babies. The empty Shabbat table, which were placed in many squares around the world. All kinds of artistic protest acts. In the sense, let me see. Oh, yeah. In the sense of a proper play, some kind of a. Just a minute. Here. Here. A proper or first actual well-written play was written 10 days into the war by a famous Israeli writer named Maya Arad Yes'ur. She, on October 17th, wrote the first play to address directly what has happened in order to try and process things, I think, firstly for herself. This is a one-woman play, which I brought some scenes from it to read to you. It is located and taking place on that bloody Saturday morning. The protagonist of the play is a mother who struggles to take care of both herself and her little children, to process, as I said before, what had happened, and to try and, most of all, maintain her humanism. On one hand, she is very much aware of her wish to take revenge, even at innocent people on the other side of the fence, but also of the need to control these specific urges and to stick to human values, to moral and to compassion. She strives to keep her inner mental health in order to refrain from a possible reverse of roles from victim to aggressor in the real outside world. The play is written like some kind of a self-guide book. She calls this play How to Remain a Humanist After a Massacre in 17 Steps. And it is some kind of a guidebook how to, although we've been exposed to terrible footage that day, how we can still maintain our humanism. How, when everything collapses and something else is struggling to hold on, how can you depict this moment? And I'd like to read to you just the opening paragraphs. A one-woman play. By the way, the world premiere of the play was in Germany, outside Israel, in December 23, and in Israel it opened just 2 months later, in February 24, and ever since then it already enjoyed some 20 productions worldwide. Very, very quick. It was very well received. So let's hear the opening paragraphs. The play starts like this, a one-woman play. Once again, first Israeli reaction, theatrical reaction to October 7th. 6 a.m. A woman is in bed, asleep. The dog is barking. Why? He is probably hearing something from afar. A siren which intensifies like the trickling of the first rain, which all at once turns into a flood. The flood. She jumps out of bed, runs to the next room, tries to wake the children up. They are not waking up, not awake enough to get up and run. She transfers one to the bed of the other and lays over them as a human shield. The dog comes down. She swears and prays, something like, God, protect my children from those fuckers. The dog is barking again. He's probably hearing the gate opening. Open up! Open up! It's me! Please open up! It's the voice of her neighbor. It's open! Open up! It's me! She will not get up. No way. She is the human shield of her children. That is her role in the world. There is no neighbor in the world that she will abandon her children for, right? Why is that neighbor placing her in this dilemma anyway? All the years of their upbringing prepared her for this moment. Is this a calling? This is a hermetic point in time. This is biology. No one can trump biology. Open the door, please. But the door is open. What's wrong with you? Mother, why are you shouting like this? Breaking news. Heavy barrages of missiles in the south and the center of the country. The forecast, a slight drop in temperature. Everything is fine, my sweet boy. Relax. Everything is fine. We have a strong army. Will it win, mother? We have an Iron Dome. Does it surround the sky? Across the border, there are people who simply want to live in peace as well. Don't forget that, my sweet boy. That's the prologue, and then the beginning of the actual play. How to remain a humanist after a massacre in 17 steps. 1. Turn the TV off. Switch off all media and every social network designed to radicalize your feelings out of capitalist motives. Do not open videos that your friends sent you privately. If they sent something that shocked their souls, they were not your friends to begin with. If you've seen over-graphic footage of women being raped, elderly women being abducted, or burnt bodies, you will collapse internally, but you must remind yourself there are mothers on the other side of the fence as well. 2, do not listen to male commentators. Do not listen to male commentators with a military background. Do not listen to male commentators with a military background and political ambitions. Do not listen to male commentators with a military background, political ambitions, and a silver forelock combed sideways. Do not forget, there are mothers on the other side of the fence as well. 3, eat pizzas. Eat pizzas and pasta, chocolate, lots of chocolate, drink alcohol, go back to smoking, shag like an animal. It is human. Sleep for 24 hours on sedatives. Do hard drugs, do light drugs, sanitize, anesthetize, scroll, punch the wall, but do not forget there are mothers on the other side as well. 6, don't turn to God. If there was a God, and if God wanted you to be a humanist, he would not have allowed these human animals who came from across the fence to shoot toddlers. Even if there is no God, there are mothers on the other side of the fence. And it goes on for 17 steps, and the bottom line is she wishes herself and all others in the audience good luck with that. Yeah? How do you keep your moral and compassion towards the other, even though you've been exposed to these unbearable sights? So this was written just 10 days into the terrible reality, and I must say that it was received with mixed feelings. There were many, many people who accused the playwright of some kind of an auto-anti-Semitism, indifference to our side of the story, although I must say that 99% of the text is dedicated to our side of the story. But it was very, it is very sensitive. She touched a very sensitive nerve, and it was really very controversial. By the way, I see it as some kind of a proof to the fact that to the validity of the famous saying of Susan Langer, that she once argued that people, audiences, react to the ethics of a fictional work more than to the aesthetics of it. And I think in this case, it was really proven right. As I said, many Israeli artists follow Brecht's approach and regard theater as the most appropriate arena for conducting a political self-examination. By the way, like drama has always done from its very early history. Look at Agamemnon, Macbeth, Richard III, The Crucible, if you wish. When October 7th happened, our National Theater, Habima, was rehearsing a play which is called The First Lady, a play by Moti Lerner about Israel's only female prime minister to this day, Golda Meir, set against the backdrop of the Agranat Commission of Inquiry, of Investigation. As you may know, in the aftermath of the Yom Kippur War, there was a fierce public criticism of both Golda Meir and Moshe Dayan, her Minister of Defense, blaming them for the governmental failures that led to the war and for the military failures that caused such extensive losses in it. Despite being absolved by the Agranat Commission, Golda Meir, unlike our current leader, decided to step down. And I would like to show you a short excerpt from this production, which is now being performed at Habima. And you know the analogies between 1973 and October 23, although the gap of 50 years are quite visible. First lady, you promised me that the mouse is working. Okay. You managed to read the subtitles? Oh.
כשהתלוננתי על כך ששר הביטחון לא הורה לגייס את המילואים לפני המלחמה, הם אמרו שההחלטה התקבלה בהתייעצות גברתי. לדבריהם, גברתי היא זו שקיבלה את ההחלטה לגייס את הצבא רק בבוקר יום כיפור. בהחלט. גייסנו מילואים על פי דרישות הרמטכ"ל. ספרו על לפני המלחמה, אני ראיתי במו עיניי את הצבא המצרי נערך למלחמה, ואני ראיתי שאנחנו לא ערוכים לעמוד מול המלחמה. מהבחינה הזו, הצבא באמת אולי לא היה ערוך כראוי למלחמה, בכל זאת הוא ניצח בה. 2,600 שובת רעב מתחת למזרק שלכם. לפני המלחמה אולי הם עדיין היו בחיים. זה מוקדם? גם כן. לא אני שפתון מילה בניהול המלחמה, ולכן, גברתי, יש אותי לספר, יחד עם דיין, יחד איתך, כולכם חייבים להתפטר. אנחנו לא נשרוד כאן הרבה זמן אם המנהיגים שלנו לא יערכו חשבון נפש. אם אתם לא תיקחו אחריות על המעשים שלכם, המנהיגים שיבואו אחריכם יחזרו בדיוק על אותן טעויות.
And you can hear the applause from the audience. Yes, sitting in Habima today. You managed to follow because the subtitles are okay. So this is now being performed at the National Theatre. Something completely different but very powerful is a production which took place a year ago, and it is called A Place to Live. It is a fringe production of the Negev Ring Theater, which tells the stories of the displaced people, refugees in their own country, as I said before, and their need to heal after the lash. All actors in these productions and the production team all live in the south of Israel. I can tell you that, for example, the technical manager's brother was one of the hostages which were released just a week ago. Ofer Calderon came back from captivity after losing some 25 kilos, some 50 pounds, and in need of immediate hospitalization. His brother is the technical manager of this production, and it is called A Place to Live. And I'd like to show you a scene where they get the notification that they have to leave their homes. They need to evacuate their homes really quick, and they did. It's some kind of a docudrama based on the real experiences.
את הילדה שלי רומה על הידיים וטלפון בלי סוללה. מלא בגדים לילדים, פיג'מות וזהו. פילים ותקנים. מלא חולצות בלי שום קשר ביניהם. לא לקחתי כלום, תפסתי את הכלב ונעלתי נעליים. את כל מה שהיה לי בארון, שכחתי נעליים. ספרים לילדים, מוצצים, חיתולים. ותמיד שכחתי תחתונים.
קיבוץ כרם שלום,
מלון ים סוף, אילת.
מושב פריגן, קיבוץ אורים,
שדה בוקר,
משם,
והשלים.
מושב תלמי יוסף, קיבוץ נחל עוז,
משמר האמת.
קיבוץ סופה,
מלון לגונה, אילת.
משם,
לאופקים, וגם ברמת גן.
מושב דקל, קיבוץ ניר יצחק,
הלכנו מלון קיסר באילת.
משם,
למלון ניוטלק ריזורט באילות.
מושב ישע,
Okay, how do you pack everything, in 5 minutes or something like that? Theater, has a double meaning. There is the usual meaning that we refer to, stage, actors, plays. And there is also the meaning of the theater of war, the battlefield. And I would like to tell you that when Israeli artists are called up, they move from one theater actually to the other, where the stakes are much higher, unfortunately. Roy Horovitz, the next playwright that I'd like to introduce to you, was drafted on the very first days of October and sent to Shura. Shura is a military camp where all the victims were brought to get, all the bodies were brought to get identified, pretty much like what we are having today with the little Bibas babies. After his service at this camp, he created a docudrama which is called Shura, the Mission of Identifying Life and not dead people. And it is based on real conversations that he had during his military service with other soldiers in this camp, some dreadful testimonies. And I just want to show you one short one, a testimony of a truck driver who was, his mission was to take care, he was the one who brought all the bodies from the Nova Music Festival to this camp to be identified. So it's called Shura, the Mission of Identifying Life.
אני לא הייתי באותו לילה, כמה שאני אומר שפחדתי וזה, לא אני נהגתי כל אותו לילה. אני הייתי הראשון שהתחלתי להעמיד שם למשאית, בלי שקיות. ממחנה רעים עד צומת צעד, 2 דלתות פתוחות, תעצור, מחפשים עם האורות של הטלפונים, מחפשים גופות, לא היה תאורה, לא היה כלום. מ-11 עד 7:30 בבוקר לא נגמר לי הסרט. 6 קילומטר, לא עשיתי 1,000 קילומטר, זה היה חלום שלא נגמר. 150 גופות לפה הבאתי, אחד על השני, זרוקות. וכשהגעתי לפה התחילו לדחוף לשקיות, יש לי תמונות, הכל, נוטף דם. אתה רואה אנשים נלחמים, כל אחד בסטרס. אתה יודע מה, הלך פה ביום ראשון, לא היה פה את השולחן, לא היה פה כלום, השטח היה ריק, נקי, רק משאיות שלא נגמרות, טק, משהו הזיה. זה לא עבר לי וזה לא יעבור לי.
Yeah. I myself, I must tell you, am right now in the middle of rehearsals as an actor for a new play by Hadar Galron, which is named So How Do You Want to Die? The 2023-24 catalog of ways to die is as surreal as it is horrifying. Beheaded in your sleep, raped and tortured, or obliterated by an Iranian ballistic missile, which strangely enough is starting to feel like the least terrible option. I brought here just a clip that we shot during the rehearsals in the rehearsal room just a week ago for you to see. It's a two-hander, a play, a family drama about a mother in a kibbutz which after October 7th stays home, locks her two little kids in the mamad, in the how do you say, safe room in their apartment, and she refuses to go out. And her husband, who is a doctor, is trying to calm her down a bit and look at how their marriage life looks after what they've been through. So how do you want to die? It was shot by a mobile phone, so I hope you will manage to see. You know what? Because it's in English, maybe one-way ticket. Just the volume. Can I raise the volumes? Yeah. Oh, it's not so. This scene is performed in English because we are going to do it abroad. So if you can. Okay, we'll do all of that. Thank you. No, now we don't hear anything. No. Now we have to reverse it. Take it. Okay, so take it from the very beginning. Okay. One-way ticket. This is double-sided. Can we use the killing and yes, thank you.
Crazy silence. That's what the point of popular history.
So I want to go see the medical. You can do different if you don't. Okay. I really got it to make it different. You really come down.
No, and wide awake looks like the eye.
When you think here's something in panic and doesn't work, the gun is just a protection. The moment you're not in immediate danger, you should try and act as normal as possible.
I'm trying. I'm trying. I was trying to. I was not communicated the same from the beginning and not come out to this bloody order. If I want to try to act normal, then we don't. We think what's wrong and what's happening. We can let it go. We can let it go. Feel nice.
What?
Those ungrateful brats said anything against me. You tell them that I bet more than I bet that everything is out of love. Promise me that you'll stand by my side. Even if they say they're not the right.
Yeah, she doesn't follow the first step of Maya Radias Ur. She keeps watching this footage, from that day. Maybe it's time for a bit of humor, don't you think? I think we are running out of time, and I don't want to miss the humor part. The famous humor, the famous Jewish humor that helped us through pogroms, wars. The saying that throw anything at us and we'll find a punchline, maybe some kind of a resilience, maybe. I brought with me two profound examples of the way that we managed to inject humor even into this horrible subject matter. And I wanted to bring you, first of all, a sketch written by Hanoch Levin, the most important, influential Israeli playwright. Died 25 years ago, but there is a sketch written by him which is now being redone at the Kamari Theater, which is the Municipal Theater of Tel Aviv. They are putting on a review of some of his works, which is called He Who Wasn't Born is Missing Out. That's the name of the review. And I brought you a sketch which he wrote in 1969, 2 years after the heroic victory of the 6 Days War. And once again, it's a two-hander. On one hand, the Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the other one is the American ambassador to Israel. And Hanoch Levin wrote a sketch about the two of them taking part in some kind of a ribbon-cutting ceremony, and the Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs is giving a speech with the American ambassador by his side. And I think it speaks for itself, and the relevance to your current administration, to our poor government, is on your account. Not a word was changed since this is the original text, 1969. It's called friendship between America and Israel. Friendship.
דווקא לחג עצמאותכם התבקשתי אני, שר החוץ, להביא ברכת ממשלתי אל האומה הגדולה והנהדרת. מנהיגת העולם החופשי, ידידתנו ובעלת בריתנו, ידידתנו. ידידתנו, לא בעלת בריתנו, ידידתנו בלבד. ידידתנו, כמובן, ידידתנו הטובה, ידידתנו הגדולה. נעים כוסית לשלומה וכוחה של הידידות והאחדות ההולכת מתהדקת בין שתי המדינות. ברית אחים, ידידות. דוד, לעודד ידידות, אבל גם להצטרף. רק ידידות. ברית לא רשמית. ידידות. ידידות נצחית. ידידות. אבל לבבית. לבבית. ברית בין הלבבות. ידידות. בסדר, זה מה שאני אומר. רבותיי, יש ידידות ויש ידידות. יש ידידות עברית. ידידות אני אומר לך. בסדר, מה אתה צועק? לא הלכתי להגיד ברית. הלכתי להגיד בריטניה. יש ידידות עם בריטניה, ויש ידידות עם אמריקה. ובדוברנו על ידידות עם אמריקה, אל נשכח שאנחנו עומדים בפני ברית. הנה אתה אומר ברית. ברית המועצות אני אומר, ברית המועצות. כי אם תקום ברית המועצות לכלותנו, האם לא תחוש אמריקה צורך להפוך את הידידות לברית? ידידות, ידידות, ידידות. תן 200 מיליון. מה? תן. לא מטריד אותך יותר עם ברית. אדוני, אתה לא חושב עליו לא פה במסיבה. סיבה, יין, לב פתוח, נשף, עצמאות, נשנקים, לא קלה מצווה, אקח מוזכרת, ארדינקאים, לא דברתי לבוא בין הרגליים, תולום, אדוני, שר החוץ,
Toblerone. He gives him a Toblerone and they cut the ribbon. And take Sarah to America, 1969. 1969. How does Hamlet say? The rest is silent. Hanoch Levin also wrote this wonderful monologue within a play named Murder about the continuous, bloodshed between Palestinians and Israelis. And at the end of his wonderful play Murder from 1997, he wrote this prayer, this original prayer, I think. One of the characters comes on stage and asks, "Oh Lord, give us some quiet, one night of peace and quiet. Every night we say we've had it with murder, tomorrow we'll have peace. Every morning a child is born and his parents say by the time he turns 18 it has to end. And so 18 years go by and 18 more years and 18 more years. When you keep waiting for life to happen, you don't live. Lord, give us 1 month of boredom, good boredom, true boredom, Swiss-like boredom. How I wish I was bored. I wish I had depression out of boredom. I wish I could hang myself out of boredom, because we cannot take the fascinating life in Asia anymore." Yeah, very fascinating, very alluring, as I said, to drama and to dramatic conflicts, but very, very tiring, I think. One last example, and then we can open the stage to your questions, comments, whatever, is something which I really hesitated before including it in my talk, but then I decided, why not? Let's jump into the deep water. It is not taken from theater, but from Israeli TV. I don't know how many of you are aware. We have our own version of Saturday Night Live. It is called Eretz Nehederet in Israel. And it's a weekly show which comments, a satirical program which addresses the reality in Israel every week. And I brought to you something from last week, from the last show, which was done, and it is performed in English, and that's why you can follow easily. Last week we had the free hostages being released in terrible conditions. And Eretz Nehederet made a sketch about how they feel the biased, not so fair global coverage towards Israel sometimes, especially at the BBC, would have reported that day of releasing the free hostages. Be warned, it's a very dark humor, okay? As I said before, I was hesitating, but see, I think it shows our ability, as I said, to find a punchline everywhere, even in these horrible circumstances, under this, the actual theater of cruelty and terror of Hamas. So let's see.
This is the BBC Live from Gaza, where everything is ready for the weekly red carpet ceremony. After 483 days, 3 Israeli prisoners, are about to be released. Oh. All right. We can see that maybe their time with Hamas has had some sort of an effect on the prisoners.
BBC, why you say prisoners? They are not prisoners.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So you actually prefer the word hostages?
No, they are clients.
Of course, clients. clients. Of what exactly?
Of the Hamas Wellness Center, or as we call it, Slim Tifad.
Slim Tifada. Oh, is that like your Oriental answer to Ozempic?
أيوة عليك, exactly. But it's all natural and it shows results. Look at our clients, look before our treatment. When they got here, they look like they've been through a disaster, overweight, no energy, very unhappy. But look at them now, thin, calm. It's like they've lost 10 years.
In only 15 months. What is your secret?
Well, the most important thing is nutrition. At Slim Tifada, we say, you are what you don't eat.
Mindful consumption. It's so profound. The wisdom of the Orient.
أيوة عليك. Well, friendly, it's based on a German method.
Of course.
أيوة عليك.
So where is this wellness center?
We are located in a magical and secluded underground location. Our retreat offers complete isolation, no phones, no connection to the outside world, but very close to Mother Earth. The deeper the tunnel, the deeper the inner peace.
A total digital detox. Oh, like Vipassana.
Oh, عليك.
Sounds amazing. Can I also try Slim Tifada myself?
لا. At this stage, we are open for Jews only.
Oh.
It's like an Adam Sandler movie. But we hope to expand in the future and open branches worldwide.
Thank you so much, and shukran. I can't wait to sign in.
You will sign up for everything, huh? مقبولة للآخر.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, that was my concluding example. I opened with mentioning the data, the numbers, and the fact that that theater is so popular in Israel. I think with these numbers comes also responsibility, not just to entertain or to amuse your audience, but also to guide, to instruct. I think that's the power of culture, to guide us, through the chaos. And I think we are struggling. We are doing our best. It's a very challenging reality, very challenging neighborhood we live in. But these were just a few short examples for you to see what is being now done in Israeli theater. Thank you so much. Yes, there are.
Thank you so much for this presentation, which I think was for all of us some new material, unless you've been in theater in Israel in recent times. I know that for some of you here, your class ends soon, so I have a lot of questions, but I will just, is it not working? No. Well, there is space in the front. If you can't hear us, come to the front. Okay, this one works. I would just open it up right away because I know some of you have to leave, and I would like to give the first word to the students. Maybe just one sentence. When you showed the many examples of theater, it really reminds me how important art in theater is, and that Leah Goldberg quote was really very important. I was thinking of another quote by Theodor Adorno, famous sociologist, who said, how can there be any poetry after Auschwitz? And I think she had the right answer. And it shows us how we might be able, how art and theater especially will help us overcome perhaps some of those horrible things that traumatize our societies. Anyway, yes, maybe just say your name briefly and.
I'm curious as to the role that theater that critiques the government or is used to kind of, push back or push forward certain things, like whether it's become part of political life in Israel and has become, something that could influence people to contact their members of Knesset or like similar to Saturday Night Live and like the media here, like if with theater being so popular there, has it become a political force that makes, people vote or think certain ways and like similar to we have here with SNL or
I don't know what you have here, but unfortunately not. There is a lot of research about which looked at the actual influence of art in general on political views, etc. And it shows empirically it shows again time and time again that art can change maybe opinions but not behavior, unfortunately, of voters. You can walk out of a theater and say, wow, it was a eye-opening experience, and it stays with you for some time, but when election comes, it won't, you won't change your voting due to something you saw or read in a novel or something. Which calls for some modesty with us, taking ourselves in the real, I think, proportions. By the way, Michael, you mentioned post-trauma. One of the things which really speaks and stays with me is that, besides there is the terminology of not just post-trauma, but also pre-trauma. And I think, fearing something which hasn't yet happened. And I think we are going on a very thin line here between what we've been through and what still awaits us, and between this dialogue between a post-traumatic and pre-traumatic society.
I actually didn't speak about post-trauma, but trauma, because we're still in the middle of the trauma. I don't think post would be the thing.
Yeah. So I'm sorry to disappoint you with this, but I don't think theater has any, real influence regarding. Who would have thought that our prime minister would stay, in office?
I'm not surprised.
To know. Yeah. You have your own issues, you say. Yeah. Yes, please.
Just to add on to that question, do you feel that it has had any influence on conversation and conversation starters on, I don't know, I'm a musical theater major at AU, and I feel, I hear what you're saying, but I also feel like, as someone who just voted for the very first time, theater has had, I feel like I can still say it's had political impacts on me and my community long before me and anybody in my community, as in people my age, could vote. So because it's still something that, if you leave a show feeling enlightened or feeling, wow, I never thought about this that way, you're going to talk about what you saw, and then you're going to bring it up to somebody else who maybe shares a different opinion than you, and it's sometimes those conversations, I don't know, I feel sometimes those conversations are just as important as the things that we can't always control. But I'm
for sure.
curious
I don't want to take away your innocence and naivety. It's charming. Just from research that was done, empirically, it was proven exactly the opposite. But sure, on a personal level, for me too, there were shows that I saw, and stayed with me and really, of course, initiated many talks, many exchange of opinions, within my circle. But in order to make a political change, you need more than that. That's what I was referring to. It's not just, in a very personal, private level. You need, in order to change the masses' opinions, it calls for more than just a brilliant show or a piece of art.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to know what advice you could give the United States, taking notes from Israel, if we look to revitalize our theater culture in our country.
Oh my God. Make America small again. Get into wars with all your neighbors, from all directions. Relocate to the Middle East, and you'll have very fertile ground for artistic innovation.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's hard to, but it's a good question. Let me just ask you maybe a difficult question, but I thought about it when you read, I think it was the first text, when she said always, there are mothers on the other side as well. And in these situations, I think one of the hardest thing is, what about the suffering of the other? And I think that's what the author tried to get in. And even if you said 99% was not, but 1% was, and that was too much for some of the audience to hear. And I assume there is probably no theater in Gaza at all. And in these times where there's so much suffering in Israel, how much empathy can there be, or is there, also in terms of art production, for the suffering, which is also hard to describe, and there are also, of course, babies and old people on the other side. How much place is there for it?
That's a tough one. I'd like to answer you by quoting one step, which I didn't read from the play. Step number 5. She says exactly, I think this is the answer to you. She says, you remember the first steps, ignore the media, etc. And then she says, speak to your friend whose son was abducted, whose mother was burnt alive, whose sister-in-law was brutally raped. You have to, you want to. She is your friend and she needs you. You will think about her from morning till night. You'll be tormented. You won't sleep at night. Don't ask her to see the mothers on the other side of the fence. She is incapable of doing that, and she shouldn't have to. If she succeeds, she is not human, and you believe in the human. I think it calls for perspective and it calls for time. I can tell you, Michael, that I don't think there is any theater activity going on in Gaza right now, but I can tell you that there are some cooperations between Arab and Jews creators inside Israel. 2 examples which I wasn't able to show you are from a project, a mutual project done by both Jews and Arabs at the Arab Jewish Theater in Jaffa, by Moti Lerner, who wrote also The First Lady in Habima, where they are trying to bridge the gap between us. And represent, the complexity of the situations. Of course, there are innocent victims on both sides, but I think really time will tell. I think we need to let people now process. We have been through a terrible, terrible thing, unheard of.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. When you made the pivot from the very heavy and serious stuff to the lighter, humorous stuff, it brought to mind something that I know is very, very active in Israel that may have its roots in the United States, which is the field of medical clowning. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to know if you have any insights about why and how. I mean, I know individually several people who are medical clowns, and they've been very active since the war started, not just in hospitals and old age homes, but also in the hotels where the evacuees are staying, and they perform a very important role. And I was just wondering, that seems to me a type of theater, and can you speak to that?
I'm not that familiar with that scene, but I know you must be right, because I came across some of them in hotels. I too perform in hotels for these displaced people, and you see them everywhere. I was amazed by the amount of how many medical clowns we have actually in Israel, but yeah, they are doing an incredible work these days. I know. But I came, from the more professional theaters, and I'm not that familiar with this kind of activity, but I know it is very well spread out. I know that.
One thing I can say is that a few of my friends who are doing this are American Israelis who've lived there for maybe 40 years. They're retirees like me, and instead of taking care of their grandchildren, they're going into these places and acting the silly people. These are all people who, in our younger years, I think would have grown up to be comedians. So they each had their own profession. They worked in different things, real estate and high school English teacher. And now they're coming out with this incredible second profession that they're doing for free.
God bless them.
Yeah.
What can I say? God bless them. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I was going to ask a question. Oh, okay. Quickly, am I preempting my friend Amy? Okay, I'll ask a question quickly. I have a question about, I guess, bureaucracy and politics. Cooper had a great question before about comparing this to the United States and the structure here regarding the arts. I think it has always been somewhat different in Israel. And on the one hand, you have such different populations in Israel between, it's what people have been calling in English an echo chamber. It's amazing to have these powerful pieces, but it's a self-selected group of people who are going to go to the Kamari Theater or Habima and hear them. But I know that Israel has a long tradition of government support for the arts, and I'm wondering, so first of all, whether that's been affected. We've seen in our fair city just a coup d'etat just last week over the Kennedy Center. So I'm wondering if there is any attempt by the government in Israel to clamp down on, remove funding from, somehow control the message from the arts. And also, this is a different question, I'm sneaking it in there, looking at the international theater community also, is there any, I know that there have been boycotts, et cetera, of Israelis just who exist, but is there a full-fledged boycott, or is it possible for Israeli artists to have their message heard outside of the Israeli left wing? So.
Good questions. The second one is not enough. Not enough. It depends on, many times on personal connections, but officially not. Officially, no one will say to you in your face, because you are Israeli, don't come here, or we don't. No, they have a better. For example, I was invited just a year ago to an international festival in Copenhagen in Denmark, and just 3 days before there, they sent me a message, an email saying that they are concerned regarding, they can't guarantee my security, my safety there, so should I reconsider? And then it turned out that they didn't even consult the local police and everything, but it was the way of trying to actually deliver the message that maybe you'd better not come. And of course I insisted, and from being a non grata persona non grata, I became the guest of honor at the end of the day. But so officially no one will say to you, I think, in your face. People just fade out, they don't answer your emails suddenly. I was supposed to start rehearsing a new play at Habima at the National Theater, and suddenly, the email, the exchange of emails with the agent regarding the rights suddenly disappeared after we had a contract. So this kind of thing you really face these days. As for the government, yeah, it's right. We are not sufficiently subsidized, but heavily subsidized by government and municipalities. Officially, there is no official censorship in Israel. You see, you can say at the National Theater and get these responses from the audience, clapping, that you should take responsibility and step down. So not officially, but I must say that sometimes, the subtext is more important than the text himself. And I don't know for how long with this current government that we have, where it will go. It doesn't look promising to the arts. Only in the last few weeks we had all kinds of changing of regulations in favor of all kinds of institutions in the West Bank, and so they have their own policy, which they don't hide. To this day, nothing really changed, but it can, tomorrow is another day. I don't know.
Take the last one from Amy. Amy has been really trying the whole time. Here, you want to go first? It's okay.
Sure, thanks. So this is more generally about theater. Obviously, it applies most intensely in time of war, but it could be about theater in general. You were talking about how, from the very beginnings, theater always can't help engaging with public matters. And I was thinking, theater's all about being in the room with other people and actually engaging. Like, it's not just the actors, it's how the audience reacts, and it's completely different from watching satire on TV or something like that. And I'm just wondering, in this time when your audiences are spending less and less time like that. People are so much more, in their own heads, on their phones, in room, closed away from other people. Do you see a difference in the experience people have? Are they less able to be in a room with the other and be open like that, or maybe more because they're not used to it?
Let's take Richard also, and then
you had made the comment that you don't believe that theater necessarily changes a person's viewpoint with regard to eventually voting and looking differently. I don't know if you...
Hansen Shulamit Kreitler, that I quoted.
Okay, my mistake. I don't know if you include theater in that, but how would you think of Leni Riefenstahl's powerful movies with regard to that, or propaganda films?
With Michael by my side, he knows better than me that Leni Riefenstahl was, Hitler was already in power when she made her movies. So the political change already happened. She didn't start the whole thing. She was part of the. So that's what I was referring that you want. Look, as a theater practitioner, I'm the last one to say that we are worthless. That's the work of my life. I'm not saying that it doesn't have any kind of value, but I say that in order to promote a serious, profound political change, you need more than just a brilliant piece of art. That's what I was trying to say. As for your question, yeah, theater is about building communities. That's right, about being together. I can tell you, even before the current crisis, when you remember COVID, we had COVID a couple of years ago. Theaters were the first one to close, and the last ones to reopen. And there was a serious fear whether people will come back. We got this message that we are unnecessary, and to our surprise, people just flock venues and we perform to. And to this day, there are certain shows that you have to book months in advance. So I think, on the contrary, because we became so addicted to cell phones and so isolated from one another, once a week, once a month, once in every 6 months, coming to spend, you know, a night in the theater. That's what makes it meaningful. You know, I think you know, theater is, along its history, was supposed to die so many times when cinema was starting, and then video, and then Netflix, and in a very bizarre way, it overcomes everything. And I think it's because of this very basic need, human need, to be with one another, to connect. That's the name of the game in theater. So I'm in this regard, I'm optimistic. Not in the regard of political change, but in this regard, I am.
Well, first of all, I want to thank all of you for really great questions. And again, thank you, Lauren, Professor Strauss. Thank you, Laura Cutler. And also thank you, Eric Gordon, as always. What would we do without you, for all the technical support? And of course, greatest thanks go to Professor Roy Horovitz for reminding us that life goes on in its own weird ways, even in times of crisis and war. And let's just hope, as you say, for a little bit of boredom in the future. With Swiss chocolate, I guess.
Let me just read to you one last thing, okay? It's a brilliant, I think, love poem to theater by the late Israeli playwright Nissim Aloni. Look, when he spoke in favor, when he tries to promote why theater at all, look at his argument. He says like this: ladies and gentlemen, we the actors know that contemporary theater nowadays is, how to say, not. I mean, not much. The lighting is no lighting, the dust is dust, and the acting and the mishaps and the audience and the situation, you cannot compare it with TV. No, you cannot compare. But there is a cafeteria and intermission, and you happen to talk to people. Yes, that is true. And still, and I insist, still, only here at the theater, night after night, once the curtain falls, the dead come back to life, take the knife out of their heart, wipe out the blood, take off their death makeup. All this you'll find only here, only with us in the theater.